Good morning and welcome to the annual meeting of the Glidden Drive Association. I'm Gary Henger, the 2013-2014 president this year. Before I do the welcome and introductions, I would like to clear up a matter that, at least for my board members, this week I had received a copy of an email that Laddie sent to Dan Warfel, who is a member of the Whitefish Bay Association and, more importantly, the lead and negotiator for our propane contract. And the email also was sent to Jim Huda, who is our liaison on the propane contract. And I had responded to that email by saying that the president of GDA intends to present a motion to the members to prevent the filming of the meeting. GDA is for members-only organization, and while non-members may be invited to the meeting, the business of GDA is not the business of the public at large and should not be televised or shown on YouTube. If the members vote in favor of filming, I will advise Laddie to edit out the propane contract information. Well, Laddie and I this morning reached a compromise. He informed me, and it goes to show you how your memory begins to fail, but I do not remember last year him standing there filming the proceedings. And if you look back on the table back there, he's filmed our meetings since '07, at least, maybe beyond that. At any rate, I said, yes, Laddie, go ahead and film this meeting, but I want you to edit out the treasurer's report and the propane contract information. So he will film this morning's meeting, and he will edit out those two subject areas. And Laddie wants to comment on the table that he set up in the back there. Yeah, sure. Come use the mic.
I have brought some things and put it in the back of interest, I think, to members. The big sign that says Glidden Drive Estates sat for maybe 60 years, or pinned to a tree at Bill Fairfield's house, and that came Irene Newkirk's house, and it was sold this January, and they gave us the sign for our history museum, which right now is in my basement. But there are also some pictures back there from the same house that you might find interesting. They show Bill Fairfield in various poses and quite young in some cases. I was led to believe, and I forget who told me this, that one of the people in the picture was Gaylord Nelson's, but John Brogan tells me that's not correct. So if anybody recognizes the politicians surrounding a Bill, would let me know. I'd appreciate it, because they're not identified. And there's a sketch there, a pencil sketch on a napkin in a frame. And I invite you to turn it over and read the other side, because we think that Irene Newkirk typed that little blurb about the situation. And we think it's a self-portrait of Bill Fairfield. And just in case you don't know, Bill and John Brogan were the two people that started the Glidden Drive Estates in the 1960s. So we owe a lot of history to them. Also, there's a pile of little batteries back there. They work for the modems that most people have for charter. And if you would like to pick one up, no charge. I just happen to get a bargain price on a whole pile of them. They will, if they work in your modem, they will keep your phone running in a power outage for a couple hours. So it's worth a free offer. Please take one. Let's see, what else? We have, I think some documents have been taken already. I had one on the lanes. There was a document showing the bylaw changes, and I tried to incorporate the ones we agreed on last year by showing the additions in red and the deletions in strikeout. So if anybody feels that that's been done wrong, please let me know and I'll revise it. There's also a document which we talk about very briefly later. I'm proposing that we make a little brochure and distribute it to anyone, especially people that have tenants and guests, and might not know some things about our neighborhood. So to make us better neighbors, I hope that they will learn some of these things. Please take copies of that. I don't want to spend much time on that later today at all.
Right.
But if you will make notes on those and get me a copy back, I would really appreciate it rather than just discussing. We could spend hours discussing it. If you think I've left something out or should change something, please write your own in there. And if you tell me who you are, I'd appreciate it. I'll keep it confidential if you want me to. Did I forget anything, Gary?
Nope.
Good.
You're good.
Thank you.
And while you're on your way back, I'll introduce the board members who are present. So Laddie is this year's vice president. To my left, Dennis Marquardt is this year's treasurer. Then Judy Kramer, who is the managing editor of your newsletter and our Glidden Drive website, both of which products are excellent. Sue Worley is a director this year, and today the secretary taking the minutes, and she asked me to tell you that if you have a comment, please identify yourself in a loud voice so that she knows she can capture the comment correctly. And to my right, John Swanson, who's a director this year. Fred Shumway is a director, and he he is at his daughter's wedding in Milwaukee today. So he was excused. And John Campbell, where are you? You're supposed to be sitting up here. That's why I forgot you. John Campbell is the director this year also. John and John are in their first term of 3-year terms. Okay, I would like to identify by raising your hand any new members who are here, who are attending their first meeting. So Amy, she's not a new member, but first meeting, Amy Phimister and Jim and what? Ruth. Jim and Ruth. Welcome. Let's see. That takes care of the introductions. Oh, no, one more thing. Would the past presidents who are here raise their hands? Sherman, raise your hand. In the back? Right. Okay, we got a good turnout of past presidents. Item number 2 on the agenda, in memoriam for members, ex-members, and friends of GDA. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but Betty Arland is a member, was a member. Marion Banks was a member. Charlie Branson was a member. Bill Burnap is an ex-member. Mary Clark is a member. Elnie DeVries is a member. Shirley Gemberling, a member. Bob Geyer, an ex-member. Carolyn Hansen, a member. Don James, a member. James O'Brien, a member. Jim Schlinwine, a member. Hank Scheig, a member. Ralph Smith, friend of GDA. And Chuck Webster, a member. They all passed in this 2013-2014 year. So a moment of silence for them, please. Thank you. And it's important that new members, young new members, join the association. Okay, let us move on to item number 3, review and approval of the July 13th annual meeting minutes. You should have a copy. They were passed out in the back. And I would call to your attention the, where is it on? Let me see that. The proposed bylaw change, Section 3, directors and officers, because that was the most important thing that was voted on last year in the meeting. And take a minute to look at it. If you have any comments or suggested changes, please advise us.
I would like to request fixing a typo on page 2 there. We have 2B section, and there should be a C.
Okay. Everybody correct your minutes.
We have pens with everything.
So do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
And seconded
Steve
by
Hughes.
Steve Hughes seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. Item 4, the treasurer's report from Dennis. Oh, yes, there was an audit report, Dennis, so Chris Comerford audited the books and sent us a letter saying everything was in order.
I do have a copy of that letter if you'd like it.
Okay, number 5, the GDA newsletter and website from Judy Kramer.
All right, this past fiscal year, we published 3 newsletters, and that was in July, November, and April. And for those of you who have been reading them, you would have noticed that we went from a color issue to a black and white 4-page only issue in April, and then again, we did that for our most recent July newsletter. And as Dennis touched on a little bit, at the beginning of this current year, Dennis and I sat down to look at all GDA expenses. Obviously as a treasurer, he was seeing the bills come in, and as myself working on the newsletter and spending it, I started wondering how much of the $20 I had to use for the newsletter. So that kind of prompted us to really look more deeply into what, as he said, what our $20 was really covering. So, with that analysis, it became apparent to us that we needed to do some cutting back. And in December of 2012, the board had voted on going from 4 issues a year to 3 to cover the additional costs with outsourcing the newsletter. And so it really was riding very close to what we were spending in previous years on the 4 issues. So, that kind of made it look like we were covering it, but we hadn't really done a deep analysis at that point. So that's what I did after talking to Dennis this year. But and then after that, in February of this year, the board voted to go to a black and white issue and keep it to 4 pages. And along with that, we also voted to do the directory every other year and provide an addendum on the off year, which we had hoped to include in the July newsletter, but we put that off because there were some late additions and corrections to people's information, and didn't know if we had some new members, so that addendum will come out in the November newsletter issue this year, and so the idea is that you would take those corrections or additions and fill in your directory that you presently have. Just to let you know, I continue to use the GDA survey that was put out in November of 2012 to guide me for the features of the newsletter. And the idea was to develop a newsletter that really was to reflect the neighborhood, and hopes that everybody would feel some ownership to it. And so I still welcome any writers and submissions. Sometimes I get quite a bit, and other times I'm thinking, oh my goodness, what am I going to put out? John Swanson has done a whole series on invasive species, which has been really appreciated. When we went to the black and white newsletter, for obvious reasons, it was difficult to put the pictures to identify the invasive species in black and white. And that's where the website has really come into play, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. But does anybody have any feedback or comments, questions concerning the newsletter?
Have you ever considered the additional possible cost savings by sending an email to those people that wish it?
Yes, that would be wonderful. I looked at the survey that was conducted in 2012, and 34% indicated they would receive the newsletter electronically. 65% indicated they would prefer to receive it by mail, and then 2% indicated they would take it by website. It's something that we would like to go to. At this point, I would need somebody who would take over the emailing of it. I don't want that job, but somebody who could sit down and compile a whole email mailing list. It would really reduce our cost. This past April, when Aaron, who is our designer and layout person, did the first black and white, she also designed it with a hyperlink. And what that did is you could click on any referenced websites and in your computer, and it took you right there. And I shared that. Anybody who emailed me feedback about the black and white issue, I thanked them and sent them this electronic email version of the newsletter, and many people then responded back, hey, that was great. It is something we've talked about. At this point,
it's a long-term goal right now because it's not enough for using email.
It's
You got 60-some% that still like to hold the paper in their hand.
But yes, it would really reduce the printing costs and the postage tremendously. Right now, I do email we have a few families who the parents have passed away and the children now have the home. And one of the children, is the household member. So all mailings go to that person, but yet they don't all get a copy of the newsletter. So in those instances, if I know about it, I each time email them a email version of the newsletter so that they also have it. That's about all I've done. There's a question.
Larry?
Oh,
Just curious, has it ever been considered to allow respectful ads in the newsletter to help defray costs and address some of our financial issues?
not in the time I've done it,
No.
but it's...
The answer is no.
Yeah.
But maybe.
It's... Right. Certainly something to take note of, Larry.
Yeah, that's the 2014-2015 board agenda discussion.
Right, and
We need a motion to put that on the next meeting's agenda?
No, those should be in the minutes.
Okay, you will do that then.
Sue, you captured that idea?
yeah. And just to give you some comparisons here, in March of 13, which was the first time we outsourced the newsletter, it was a color issue, 4 pages, and the cost of that per membership was $3.10. The November issue, which we really beefed up that year, well, actually, I should go, it was an 8-page color layout newsletter, and the cost per membership was $4.31. This past April, when we went to the 4-page black and white, the cost of that per membership was $1.77. And then this past July, it was a 4-page black and white, and the cost of that was $1.32 per membership. And that's because the design, when we went from color to black and white, there was some design elements that had to happen for us to have a nice crisp printing of that, from photos to lettering. And so that's in place. So the second time around on that black and white, it was pretty easy for her then to just fill in.
Here, question on total members and what percent do the total members represent?
99.
Maybe on the dues, how many dues-paying members do we have, and what's the percentage?
Oh, I see.
Given the overall.
Oh,
Yeah.
possible?
We have 257, and But I don't know what the overall percentage is.
I remember.
Yeah, somebody-
Yeah,
I remember minutes from your presidency where we had 300 and some,
315.
315
Yeah.
households.
yeah,
or-
that's right,
Yeah, that's what it says here in the link.
yeah. So,
I got some people who have their house for sale have been sending me letters saying they don't want to be in the association anymore because they have their house for sale. We've had a few people pass away and that. So we've lost some members.
I was just thinking of a drive down the cost per, if we increase our.
oh, if we,
Of course,
the possible, yeah.
we could
yeah.
talk those people in who have never been members to be joined.
Right, right. But, you know, we really did reduce the costs, and like I said, we were not wanting to have to keep, you know, pulling out of our savings to sustain the expenditures, you know. It's just like home, you want to operate within your, your income.
On your 20 bucks. We
Yeah.
want to operate on your 20 bucks.
So, Joanne?
I'm sure that I was one of the 65% who said I like to have it in front of me, but I do also have email that I'm perfectly capable of using. And so I'm wondering what it would be like if you did try to send it email. I mean,
Oh, it would work. I just, you know, I just personally didn't want to sit down and have all those and work at the computer. You know, just need somebody to compile an e-list, and then I could send that person the PDF or whatever format it's in, and they would send it out.
Is you can't put a whole lot of people on it.
That's right.
Why not?
Well,
It comes up as spam for a lot of people.
Right.
You have to have a bunch of.
you have to know how to
lists.
do it, yeah. And I didn't want to learn how to do that.
Right. Somebody thinks
I
it's
agree.
simple. It's
Just
not.
post it on the website, you don't need any email at all.
That's
Right,
long range
right.
goal
Yep.
also.
Yeah, it's on there now, and I'm having trouble, I have to put it on in a JPEG form, so it's like an image, and you can read it, but it's pretty small print, and I know there's a way to do it. I personally haven't had time to sit down and play with that, but that's one of my goals, and the goals,
Ask your web designer, PDF is the most common form on the web now.
yep, thank you. Any other input?
Fred?
Fred?
Fred Gold, 3727 Glidden Drive. I just have a curious question as far as our membership list. Is this one given out and if commercial enterprises approach the board?
No.
No.
And do we have any restriction on it that as a member that somebody can pass it on to somebody who has some commercial interest? Because I noticed that I was sometimes getting approached with mailings, and the way I found out about it, that they mailed it to me also in Florida where we had a condo. And I'm just curious, is there any way we can prevent that occurring? Because I'm sure that many of you get called
you're-
up
You know,
with
you're-
commercial calls and the robot calls and all that stuff.
but
You know, and
Fred,
I'm
you're,
very much concerned that the list through an individual would get into a commercial situation.
unless a member has taken it upon themselves to feed it to some commercial body, it can't happen. So, you know, you can't assume it's coming from any mailings we do. But-
Fred, robocalls don't even know us, they know who you are, they just dial numbers. I get them all the time.
What I'm just referring
We
to
can't
that,
stop them.
that we are being exposed to a lot of calls and mailings.
Yeah.
At least I notice it, and I know through some friends here on Glidden Drive, they all express.
Well,
the same.
it's,
An epidemic
I
in
can't
America.
imagine, yeah, I don't know how it would be coming from any of, yeah,
We can get it from the public records.
yeah, it doesn't come from our mailing list at all, yeah. Bill?
The only known incident we had, I think, under my watch is that a local realtor somehow received a copy of the directory and used that as a basis for sending out letters to the members. And we sent a letter or a call, I can't remember, but we contacted her and said cease and desist, that's against the rules and so forth and so on. And she apologized. But that's the only incident I know of, Fred, where somebody has used it for commercial use.
Okay.
I would endorse the website. It's a really neat, so follow gliddendrive.com, and it's a good website for the amount of money that we're paying for it.
Yeah, the website was set up in October of 2013. It costs us $39.95 a year, and that's really, we're paying for the domain name, followgliddendrive.com. And when we went to the black and white issue, as I mentioned before, I started putting any information that definitely benefits from color on the website. But because the newsletter is now only 4 pages, and half of the back page is for mailing, per the post office rules, you can't have anything in that address panel when you fold it. So it's really 3.5 pages. But so there's a lot of information on the website, and it's up to date. You can send photos to me. They can go on there. We have member profiles, environmental articles such as the ones John has been providing. There's a place to submit creative writing, and it's under the button called Glidden Scribes. There is a link to propane information on the About page that will give you up-to-date information on that. We have the GDA board meeting minutes, and
After they've been approved.
yes. And then we have a spotlight feature, which features activities that individual members are involved in. So if you haven't accessed that, I hope you do. And any questions, comments on that?
Thank you, Judy. Okay, number 6, the program portion here, and we have 4 items to cover, so let's try and be as brief as possible. And we'll call up Biz Verley, a member of GDA, to give us an update on county activities.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, I am still your supervisor for District 15, which is the eastern half of Sevastopol. Leo Zipper has the western half. I have the eastern half. I'm members of the county board. Yes, I've been told by the president and my wife, everybody, you got to be brief in this update. So, several years ago, it was noted that there was really a big explosion of the vegetation on the Dunes Lake. And it's in your minutes from last year and also this year where the Glidden Drive Association gave another $500 for this important issue. It's important to all of us on Glidden Drive, the Dunes Lake problem, because we all have a well. We depend on safe water and the runoff, the groundwater, so it's very important. They formed a committee. The Soil and Water Department had test sites trying to put their finger on why the Dunes Lake vegetation has exploded some years ago. And they had 8 or 9 test sites. One was at the Glidden, the bridge on Glidden Drive for where the creek goes into the lake, and then all the way up to Heberly Road, and then going north for the watershed that goes from Geisel Creek. And it was determined that there was a lot of nutrient and a lot of phosphorus that was going into the lake. That was the problem. They formed a committee to figure out what we were going to do about this thing. The Soil and Water Department had a $500,000 grant, but the grant was only going to cover the agriculture part of it, namely the farmers. So that was introduced, and they contacted all the farmers along the Geisel Creek from Heberly Road all the way up to the Jacksonport town line. It involved a lot of farmers, and the $500,000 plus was to help them form nutrient plan for their runoff, putting in buffers and doing things. I can tell you that the Soil and Water Department has told me that they've had 100% cooperation with the farmers. That's all been introduced, and it's going well. The second part of this whole thing was the sanitary ponds over here near Institute, which is the pipeline from Valmy all the way down to Institute, and includes the school system that contribute to the sanitary ponds. Typically in the past, once a year, the DNR gives them the green light to let water out, water that's already been treated. And although it's been treated and they meet all of the specifications, there still is a pretty good amount of nutrient that was going into Geisel Creek and into the Dunes Lake. So how can we deal with that? The Soil and Water Department asked for donations. They needed money for to go out with a RFP, a request for proposal on how we can deal with that. Glidden Drive gave that $500 again this past year, and the DNR gave $3,000, Coastal Management gave $5,000. There were some private donations. Those people wanted to remain anonymous. The Nature Conservancy gave $1,000. The Fish and Wildlife Service gave $1,000, and they came up. They had $11,500. They had a couple of bidders, and they've already. I talked to the Soil and Water this week, and they've awarded it to a company down in the valley. And what their job is to come up with a plan for a passive filtration system, more commonly known as, most of us would know it as a rain garden. The rain garden, I've seen one small drawing is more than double the size of the sanitary ponds. And the rain garden would be a large area that's bermed up, and this company is going to come up with the trees, all the vegetation that's put in that rain garden that's going to gobble up the nutrients and phosphorus. So when they release the water out of the sewage pond, the sanitary pond, more than 1 million gallons, it's going to go into this passive filtration system, rain garden. So that's underway right now, and their bid, it came in under bid of the money that we already have, and that plan will show of what we can do before that water, hopefully most of that water will get used right there by the vegetation and it won't get released into the creek. So the short story is it's going real well. It's going real well. And this is an important thing for all of us on Glidden Drive. So the other thing was I contacted, I'm going to be brief on this, I contacted the Highway Department on 3 different things: the mowing, the tree cutting, and the resurfacing of Glidden Drive. The mowing, they're going to stick with the past policy, and they're going to mow, they're telling me, by mid-July. So I would think within this next week or 2, Glidden Drive will get some mowing done. The tractor basically stays on the pavement, and they're mowing in, Thad Ash told me, maybe like 3 feet, enough to make it safe for people walking along the drive. So you can expect to see them more on the drive probably in the very near future. The tree cutting, he said, like in the past, he said you won't see the Highway Department on the drive unless there's a wind or some emergency until fall and winter. And the cutting is only as necessary to make it safe. So they do mark some dead trees. If you have any trees real close to the road adjacent to your property, you should call the Highway Department and tell them. They'll look at it and take it down. So that's remaining basically the same. Per the minutes for last year, I had told you that they were going to resurface Glidden Drive next year, 2015. Their original plan was they were going to do it in thirds. they were going to do a third of the drive, and then the next year a third, and the next year a third, and have the whole thing completed by 2015. Well, schedules change. I talked to Commissioner John Kaloji and Thad Ash, and now they have Glidden Drive scheduled for 2016. So it's not going to happen next summer, but the following summer, the entire drive. They're going to start at South Brower Road, which is the first road west of the sawmill, and they're going to pick up all the pavement, grind it up, pulverize it, from there all the way to Glidden Lodge, to where the south end of Bark Road, where they paved that far. They went from Nelson Road around the corner by the hitching post and all the way down to Bark Road, where the Glidden Lodge is. That is 5.7 miles from the lodge all the way to Brower Road. 5.7 miles. They're going to grind it all up, repave the entire thing. Cost is going to be $1,197,182, and that's by today's prices. If oil goes up, the cost will go up along with it. So you're looking at $1.2 million, and they fill the holes, and they keep maintenance on the road right now. And there are a lot of areas that are getting pretty bad. So they're going to do the entire drive in 2016. So, without that,
any questions?
Quick question, actually, for you, Gary. Back when I was president, and before that, Thad Ash would meet with me or one of the other presidents in late winter, looking at all the trees. We would measure what trees. Did he meet with you this year?
No, I did not meet with that.
Okay, just something for maybe for the next president to do. And then we just went up and down Glidden Drive and then measured if they were far enough out that they could be taken down, and they were taken down whether they lay like it or not.
Thank you. Thanks. Oh, yes, Dennis.
Biz, roundabouts?
well, the highway safety keeps meeting with the DOT, and they keep saying that they want to put roundabouts in. I know after the 4th of July weekend, we had traffic backed up way up past the mill, way up past the experimental station, and it's been brought to my attention is how is the roundabout going to handle that? I don't know. The DOT obviously knows that that's a problem, and they're talking about frontage roads and how, like for instance, on the Egg Harbor road where you come out to the highway, and that's basically a T intersection, you no longer would be able to, from that intersection, make a left-hand turn to head north. You would have to make a right-hand turn, go with the flow of the traffic, down to Michigan Street, go around the roundabout, and then head north. Now, I've only been to a couple of those meetings when the highway safety meets, but they don't have it on a drawing board yet of exactly how they're going to do it. But it's all about safety. If accidents happen at roundabouts, cars get dented a little bit, but it's not like a light intersection and someone goes through a red light at 50 miles an hour and T-bones another car and people are either hurt bad or killed. So, that's why they put them in. But to answer your question, I don't have the answer yet or how they're going to handle it. But it's still being talked about that they want to do it. Go ahead, Gretchen.
Will they do one side of the road and then the other so we can all get in and out?
Oh, yeah, sure. Traffic will be able to move, but it's going to be restricted, when you get the highway workers in there. And actually, I saw in the paper that they said after the 4th of July weekend, they're going to do from the bridge, the Bayview Bridge, they're going to repave that 4-lane all the way to the YN. Which is about 7 miles. You're going to see that happen soon. Now you're going to do that this summer. And of course, obviously, they can only do one lane at a time, so there's going to be restrictions on the traffic.
Okay, that's in the future. There's nothing we can do about that right now. Thanks, Biz, for your comments.
Okay, thank you.
And next item is propane contract announcement. Jim Huda. Social calendar. John, would you tell them when the next picnic, or where and what about the picnic?
Sure. So the annual picnic will be August 2nd, so 3 weeks from today at noon at the town park right here. Beebles will be catering it like they did last year. So they're going to provide, I think they cook out the meat right there on site. They'll have 3 or 4 different salads and some desserts and beer and wine, I believe, and soda. And so the cost is $20 for adults, $5 if you have children or grandchildren 12 and under. We do need kind of a head count by the end of this next week. So if you've got that, it should be in the last newsletter, the application form for the picnic. You can get that into Dennis or to the treasurer at the post office box. That'd be great. Maybe you can talk to Dennis after the meeting today if you'd like to, so we can get some names for that picnic.
Thank you, John. Okay, the next item, I will add my understanding of this. Gene Mitchell came to me at a men's coffee and said it would be a good idea to have publish a list of do's and don'ts for renters and visitors relative, coming, using the beaches or using Glidden Drive, etc. Several days after that, I got an email from Laddie with the same idea. Then I became aware from the annual meeting of last year that Larry Sipovich had a concern. So this resulted in Laddie putting this idea on the agenda. So Laddie, why don't you tell us? And this is something that we could brainstorm right now, but I don't think it should take, I give it 10 minutes kind of thing. And actually it's a 2014-2015 board job.
Well, I spoke about this earlier, and I don't want to spend a lot of time arguing over this, but if you picked up copies of the draft, and it's a very preliminary draft, I'm sure we left some things out. You might have some better wording for some of the items. I suggest that the easiest way to at least start this, because it may take some board meetings to get it approved, is if you have some ideas, write them down on the paper. If you didn't get a copy, tell me, I'll send you one, and leave it with me. If you want your name to be confidential, I will keep it as such. But I would welcome any comments, just anything you think should be stricken, added to it. If there's some topics we've left out. We don't want to make this long and hard to read. It should be brochure size that people can put on coffee tables. And I anticipate once the text is approved, I'll put it together with some pretty pictures and make it look nice and fold and something like that.
I don't know that we want to spend the money for a brochure. I think we want to use the website as much.
You can put it on the website.
Put it on the website, yes. And
but so far the money you've spent is zero.
And the newsletter. I mean, the newsletter is low cost.
And so far I'm donating it as zero.
Oh.
So
you're going to create the brochure.
Yeah. That's what I do, Gary.
Okay.
Okay. So there won't be any cost. Yes, Gretchen?
I think this kind of information is pertinent to the non-members. Because
right.
We have neighbors who are not members and they have fireworks up in the sky near our woods.
Well, you might.
To non-members and visitors and renters.
You might imagine that it's harder for us to get the word out to non-members because they aren't here. Yeah. Well, I would hope that people who do have tenants and guests would leave them on their coffee table or send them to their tenants or guests just to let them know what's going on. That's the best we can suggest that to them, and we'll give plenty of copies for that purpose. Yeah, put them on the doorstep so they trip over it. Yeah, that would be a good idea. Okay. Yes, yes, Tom?
Fire that goes in the woods, it would take
think as owners, you have a responsibility to try and
Get along?
Okay, Jim Huda in the back. Very good.
We should invest in a very long hose. Maybe 7 miles long? Okay.
Well, thanks,
No,
Laddie.
sure.
The upcoming board's going to take care or put this idea together. That brings us to the election of new directors. The outgoing officers who have served their 3-year term are Gary Hanger and Laddie Chapman, and we have 1 vacancy. So we had 3, per the bylaws, outgoing directors who have served their term should be replaced by new directors. We found 3 new directors. So the board approved slate of directors is Paul Cazarel in the back. Stand up, Paul, so they can see you. Amy Phimister, and Jerry Schomburg. Are there any other nominations?
I would like to nominate Lady Chapman. She's down there.
Is there a second?
I'll second Larry.
Larry seconded it. All in favor?
For what? What are we doing? Adding him to the...
This lady has nominated Laddie Chapman to be nominated for a position as a director in the 2014-2015 year.
Gary, I don't think a nomination need be approved. I think you just add the nominated person to the list.
Okay.
If nominations from the floor are
So,
what's involved.
so we have 4 candidates for 3 positions.
Correct.
So we need a vote. All those in favor of Paul Cazarel as an incoming director? Do I need to count these, Gordy?
How many votes do people have?
Okay.
Yeah, how many votes do we have? No votes?
Members have 3 votes. You have 3 votes for 4 candidates.
Correct.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Dick, abstaining? Are you voting? 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27.
It's family, just one, right?
Oh, it's family? House number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 20, did you vote? 26 for Fred, 27, John, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35. So 35 votes for Paul Cazarel. The replacement for Laddie Chapman, I'm going to assume Paul is going to replace me as an outgoing director or outgoing president. Jerry Schomburg will replace Laddie. All those in favor of Jerry Schomburg as the new director, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, What did I count you now? The 30, oh, John, I missed John, 35. The vacancy, the nominee for the vacancy is Amy Finister. All those in favor of voting for Amy as a new director, please raise your hands. Amy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. Okay, the fourth candidate is Laddie Chapman to continue on as a director. All those in favor, raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5. The new slate of directors is Paul Cazarel, Jerry Schomburg, and Amy Finister. Election's over. Open. And I want to say this. Laddie has been a very good contributor to Glidden Drive Association. He has served on this board for 12 years consecutively. So that means he's had 4 3-year terms, if not more. That's what he told me. He keeps he keeps us straight on Robert's rules. And as you saw back there at the table, he took it upon himself to set up all those brochures this morning for us. So we appreciate Laddie's contribution. I don't think it hurts the association, though, if Laddie sits down for a year and we have 3 new members on the board of directors. Next year, we'll have 2 people going off of the board who served their 3-year terms. And if he wants to come back as a nominee next year, perfectly okay. Item 8, open discussion. Rich?
First of all, I want to say I appreciate the austerity moves that the board has made, trying to live within a budget. But I feel that something else has to be done. So with that, I'd like to make a motion that the annual dues be increased by $10 to a total of $30 a year, effective June 1st, 2015.
June 1st.
I second it. 21, 15.
As second?
I'll second it.
Seconded.
Wait a minute.
Biz?
According to the bylaws.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, point of order.
Which part? Oh. Under membership and dues, any person owning real estate on Glidden Drive or Glidden Lane shall be eligible for membership in this association, and each said owner shall be entitled to 1 vote upon payment of annual dues. The initial membership fee shall be the amount of the fee paid annually by all members for the current year ending May 31st. Annual dues are fixed by the board of directors. As fixed by the board of directors, shall be increased by no more than $5 for any year unless approved by a majority of the members present or voting by proxy at the next annual meeting.
So we just voted.
In that case, I changed my motion to a $5.
So,
Oh, wait.
It's allowed. We just have to vote.
but the next annual meeting, not this annual meeting. So there's a motion for the incoming board, as I read this, that says we should increase our dues by $5, making it $25 a year. That motion was seconded by Biz Verley. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion's passed.
It's not a decision for the incoming board.
No, it's your decision right now. But they're going to implement it.
Thank you.
The treasurer will implement it.
Oh, it's over his dead body.
Yes, Gordon?
Gary, can I ask a question about, my understanding was that there were restrictive covenants saying that you had to have an attached garage. I don't care one way or the other, but can you tell me what the status is? Because there are several non-attached garages around, and I'd like to know what is the status?
Gordon, the covenants, as I understand them, and John Brogan, these covenants that say that there should not be an unattached garage, were those Glidden Drive estate covenants?
Yes, they were, but the problem is they're in the deeds of the property we sold. The problem is enforcement. And nobody's gonna hire, the association won't hire, can't afford to hire an attorney. And we've met, when I was on the board, we met with the county planner, and they said they wouldn't enforce that.
Gary, can I speak to that?
Yes, Laddie, you may speak to that also.
I am not an attorney, but this comes up frequently in my business. And what John said is exactly right. Covenants are a, whoa, Gordon, you should be telling this speech. Covenants are a private idea, and they have to be sued by a private suit. The association could sue somebody if they wanted to. I don't think we're going to, nor do we want to spend it.
No.
But they would have to be, it's not enforced by planning and zoning, not enforced by the government. The government has hands off on that kind of an agreement. Personally, I feel the covenants were a good idea at the time, but maybe dated, and maybe as long as our neighborhood looks nice and the values are kept high, we probably should, I'm personally not concerned if there's a detached garage, as long as it doesn't look like a trash heap.
Right.
Well, there may be very good reasons why a detached garage is necessary, and I understand that, and I'm not suggesting that we start enforcing this willy-nilly, but I'm not sure that the officials, the county officials who are charged with the responsibility of issuing licenses can simply ignore covenants running with the land. I am not sure that they have that privilege.
You're talking Sue Miller, like the zoning,
Well,
or
whoever issues building permits,
K-Miller.
primarily. I don't think they can just ignore it. But even if they can, we don't have to start suing people. We can write them a letter advising, when they get the plans for a detached garage, advising that there is a covenant against it, and if they have a compelling case, they should advise us as to why we should waive that right. But I am concerned that our doing nothing waives the ability to enforce it at any time, under any circumstance. And I don't want to see us in that position, because there's a very good reason why that covenant in general should be applicable. Now, again, there are a lot of places going up, and they may require a detached garage. I'm not suggesting anything retrospectively. I am suggesting that we study this matter, talk to the building. I don't understand they're saying that they don't enforce these covenants. They enforce zoning covenants, and these covenants are every bit as compelling as a zoning covenant.
How many of you could lay your hands on the original Glidden Drive set of covenants?
They're on file with the Register of Deeds.
They're on file?
Yes.
Okay, so everybody theoretically.
If I know John Brogan well, they are on file with the Register of Deeds.
They're on file, John? Okay, well, then we'll have to go back and review this subject and see how we can maybe be more aggressive at trying to. Okay. Fred.
When I built my home 14 years ago, I went to the building department, was up here in that City Hall building, and I was questioning if any of the deed restriction covenants, etc., if there's an issue does the county itself, and the lady said to me, when we give you the permit, he said, that overrules everything else, so don't worry about any covenants or deeds.
Well, maybe a letter to them from an attorney might be a good idea, because
Okay.
that just
Got
isn't
that one
right.
too. Maybe consider a letter from the board's attorney to,
The board.
maybe, but you know, the first thing I would recommend that the incoming board dig out these covenants, look at them, decide which ones are worth making issues over and which ones aren't, because there were at least 8 of them I remember in my memory. I hear you. I understand that. Herb?
I'd like to address the problem of lane maintenance. One of the marvelous things that our association has is the entranceways to the lake with the lanes.
Yes.
Now, it's been mentioned to me by several people that some of those lanes are not passable. And in years gone back, we used to get together at the men's coffee, and it was mostly Glidden Drive members at that particular time. And after the coffee, we take our weed whackers and go out and take care of a half a dozen lanes. And in 2 weeks, we had the whole problem solved. That is not being done today.
No, I think individuals take the responsibility. I take the responsibility for Elm Tree Lane, and only once a season, though. Only once a season do I go out there and chop it down.
I trimmed all the lanes last fall myself, because no one would join me. I did a couple this spring, but I haven't kept up.
But your point is well taken, Herb. All we have to do, I guess, is talk it up at the men's coffee and see if we can get a team of lane maintenance people together.
He was the president that year that did that.
Who?
The president during that.
Oh, okay. Yes, Fred.
About that the board doesn't get too much involved in the situation to all of a sudden look at.
Yeah, we won't get any new members.
First of all, and the second thing, unless it's something outrageous, but I think you'll be getting yourself into trouble. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Yes, Biz.
Yeah, that increase of $5 on the dues now, for those of us that have already paid dues for this year, 20, is this effective for 15?
Next year.
Next year, okay, thank you.
Next year. John.
I'd like to bring up something that relates to what Biz had to say about Glidden Drive. 30 years ago or thereabouts, the town of Sevastopol established a sanitary district. And the sanitary district applied for a farm home grant, which they received for $500,000 or more dollars. To get that grant, the sanitary district, get that grant, to put the pipes in and put the holding basins down on the creek, they made a promise to the government. In that document, it says, and this is required for the city of Milwaukee, too. I mean, there's a primary and a secondary service territory that they promised to serve. Not simply a small group of homeowners in the high school. That could be the first phase. But these stages of additional service spread out. In that document, as I recall, They included part of Clark's Lake, which was really a very large problem for water pollution, failing septic systems. And Glidden Drive, Park Road. The service territories have never been expanded by the district beyond the schools, the original service territories. Now, that lays open the fact that the recourse that the government has, in this case the Farm Home or EPA, is to step in and simply ask the district, or demand the district, to pay back the $500,000 or $600,000 if they don't meet their service commitments. No one has raised that issue, but it sits there. And I think before we do Glidden Drive, there ought to be some checking as to whether what the status of the service territory is. Because if you go ahead with paving the drive, like you're saying, picking it all up and paving it, and then you start having to cross the road for every household, depending upon what side it's on, you're going to have a nightmare on that new road. And it's the practice in cities. We're going through it in Green Bay with extensive work on some of the main thoroughfares. The first thing that happens is any utility work that is to be done has to be done. And then they put the concrete or the blacktop down. So I don't know, Biz, if you can check that, but there it is. It's just sitting there as an issue.
I'm not sure I understand it, John, but
Is this laying the sewer? It's fairly simple. Once the sanitary district is formed and applies for a grant, which is 80 or 90% of the cost of the facility proposed, as part of that application, they must say, to get the money, they must give a primary and secondary over years service territory. And the service territory 30 years ago spread out so that in 20 years.
So the service territory right now includes Glidden Drive.
Glidden Drive and the south end of Clark.
But Glidden Drive, at least this member of Glidden Drive, hopes to get that blacktop road improved and paved over. It's going to be inconvenient for sure. Oh, put a sewer in. Ah. Well, now that, John, might
drive parts of Clark Lake or Bark Road. It's an impossibility.
Right.
They can't handle it.
They can't handle the effluent.
Period.
Yeah, and, you know, knowing what Charter went through to try and lay cable down Glidden Drive, I don't think the county's going to say, oh yeah, we're going to put sewers in for you either.
I think the expansion of the sanitary district is up to the sanitary district if they're going to add Glidden Drive to it. It's not up to the Soil and Water Department. The Soil and Water Department looked into the issue of what's happened to Doones Lake because of the agriculture runoff and also because of the releasing from over 1 million gallons annually out of the sanitary pond. That water's already been treated and they meet the specifications that the DNR has, but that doesn't mean that it's perfectly clean. There still is some nutrient in there, and that's the purpose of the rain garden. They didn't apply for a grant. The grant money that I talked about is attached to the agriculture part, what the farmers are doing. It's the runoff that goes into Geisel Creek.
not what has anything to do with the sanitary ponds. They had donations for this rain garden thing. That isn't grant money. That's
Yeah, but what Mr. Brogan addresses to is when they built the sanitary district, they got a grant from the federal government and made the commitment. And that's open, that's still on the books.
from what I've been.
That should be clarified. It's the same thing we have from the county or from the Glidden, and Mr. Brogan maybe can address it. That we have a road put in the back of my properties was the so-called Schmucker Road, I think.
Yeah.
And the township voted on that they're not ever gonna put that road. So somewhere along the line, the township will have to make a statement regarding to the sanitary district, what the issue gonna be and how they're gonna resolve the issue of the $500,000 they got as a grant.
Thank you, Fred. I would like to conclude this open discussion with a recommendation from the outgoing president to the incoming board. One of the mistakes that I made was not taking the minutes of this annual meeting and getting them examined at the first regular board meeting. I brought a preliminary copy from Sue, and I raised, are we going to approve these minutes? And they said, oh no, that we have to approve those at the annual meeting. But I recommend that the incoming board go over these minutes and see what action items you should follow up on out of this. So I think we've handed you a fair amount of work. Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this.
All in favor? Aye.